My name's Eliza Kane, ex-detective turned private eye, operating out of Manchester for the last decade. I won't bore you with the saga of why I ditched the badge. It's a story long enough for a memoir, and let's just say the Greater Manchester Police and I didn't part on the best of terms. Felt like I was banging my head against a wall, underpaid and undervalued. So, in 2015, I traded my warrant card for a freelance gig in the private sector, where the paychecks are fatter and the red tape thinner. Early on, I bounced between agencies, handling the usual grunt work, digging up dirt for divorce lawyers, sniffing out insurance scams, running asset traces. Decent money, sure, but half the time it was so mind-numbing I almost missed the chaos of the force. Infidelity cases were more my speed, grimy, emotional, raw. But wading through that muck day after day takes a toll. You can only stomach so many cheating spouses before you need something else. Corporate gigs paid the bills, catching sticky-fingered executives or unraveling financial schemes. But what really hooked me was finding people who'd vanished. A mate from my police days tipped me off about missing persons work. At first, I thought, who hires a PI when someone goes missing? That's what cops are for. But I quickly learned not everyone trusts the police, or wants them involved. Some cases are too messy, too personal. The one that stuck with me was a bloke who hired me to track down his brother, a kid who'd fallen into a rough crowd, running drugs to settle a debt. Getting that lad off the streets and back to his family, that felt better than any paycheck. Money's great, but if you can't face yourself in the mirror, what's the point? So, I carved out a niche, missing persons, with the occasional corporate job to keep the lights on. Word spread, and soon I was the go-to for finding people others couldn't. That's how I got a call from a couple named Roger and Evelyn Holt. They'd heard about me through a social worker I'd crossed paths with, someone who ran a shelter for at-risk teens. The Holts wanted to meet in person. My rule, always, before taking a case. They were free that evening, so I drove out to their tidy, semi-detached in Salford. Over a cuppa and a plate of shortbread, they told me about their missing granddaughter, Sophie, aged 20. Lovely couple, mid-70s, warm but worried sick. Sophie had been in their care since her mum died when she was a kid. They'd always been tight, but after she moved into her own place in Ancoats, a trendy flat she was proud of, she stopped calling. 3 weeks, no word. Not like her at all. They handed me a folder. Photos of Sophie, her last known address, the name of the bar she'd worked at until recently, and a few other scraps of info. They also explained why they didn't want the police involved. Not yet. See, Sophie had learned the truth about her mum's death a few months back, on her 20th birthday. Roger sat her down and told her the whole story. Her mum had been killed in a hit and run. The driver, some gutless lowlife, fled the scene. A passerby called an ambulance, but it was too late. Sophie's mum bled out on the pavement. The truth hit Sophie hard. She'd been distant ever since, maybe even dabbling in drugs, the Holts feared. They didn't want her getting nicked for possession if the police found her. A criminal record could ruin her shot at uni or a decent job. I got it. My fees weren't cheap, but finding her quietly could save her a world of trouble. I took a deposit, thanked them for the tea, and promised I'd bring Sophie home. First stop was the bar in Ancoats, a hip spot called the Rusty Anchor. I showed Sophie's picture to a bartender who didn't know her, but grabbed a colleague who did. Over a quick coffee, this colleague, a chatty lass named Mia, painted a different picture of Sophie than the sweet, naive girl her grandparents described. Sophie hadn't just quit the bar. She'd left months ago, under normal circumstances, to take a better paying gig elsewhere. And she wasn't some innocent kid. Mia described her as a proper party girl, always out clubbing, living for the night. Not the sheltered type the Holts made her out to be. Apparently, Sophie had been pulling all-nighters, sometimes showing up to work still buzzing from whatever she'd been on. Eventually, the bar life couldn't keep up with her nocturnal habits, so she'd taken a job at a late-night club in the Northern Quarter, a place known only by its street address, 47 Canal Street. Mia said Sophie was practically a fixture there before they offered her a job, pouring drinks, charming the punters. It suited her vibe perfectly. Mia was gutted to hear Sophie was missing and gave me the club's details, wishing me luck. The club didn't open till 10 p.m, so I killed time at home before heading to the Northern Quarter. At the door, a bouncer demanded a steep £25 entry fee for non-members. I tried flashing my PI credentials, fancy business cards, the works, but he wasn't having it. Finally, he called a supervisor, a sharp-tongued woman named Tara, who glanced at Sophie's photo on my phone and swore she'd never seen her. Her answer came too quick, her face softening just enough to betray recognition. She was lying. And I knew it. People who don't know someone take a moment to think. Those who do, answer fast and show a tell. Tara had both. I paid the £25 to get inside, nursing a pricey gin and tonic while scoping the place. I asked around, showing Sophie's photo. Some staff admitted knowing her. Others clammed up, mirroring Tara's frostiness. Tara kept glaring at me from behind the bar, and I figured my time was short before she'd have me tossed out. I asked to speak to the manager, but Tara intercepted him first, whispering something as she shot me a look. To my surprise, the manager, a bloke named Callum, didn't boot me out. Instead, he took my card, sized me up, and invited me to his office. Turns out, Sophie was a favourite at the club. Not just a bartender, but a regular who lit up the room. Callum confirmed Tara's protectiveness. She'd lied because she was worried about Sophie. A couple of weeks back, Sophie had been off. Quiet, anxious, not her usual bubbly self. She'd told a co-worker she was waiting for someone, hoping to sort something out. After texting furiously, she'd said she might be gone for a bit and left. Callum also mentioned a shady guy who'd come looking for Sophie a few days prior, getting aggressive when staff wouldn't talk. Tara thought I was another one of his ilk. They were all worried about Sophie, especially since she hadn't checked in with her grandparents. Callum suggested I try Deansgate, where Sophie's rumoured boyfriend, an older regular, lived. Then came the bombshell. Sophie's job wasn't just bartending. She'd been doing sex work on the side, pulling in serious cash to fuel her nightlife. That changed everything. Sex work meant risky clients, dodgy pimps, or debts gone wrong. Best case, Sophie was lying low with this boyfriend. Worst case? I didn't want to think about it. I focused on Deansgate, spending days haunting cafes and pubs, flashing her photo, keeping the Holts updated without spilling the full extent of Sophie's lifestyle. They didn't need to know about the sex work. Not yet. On day 4, I spotted her. I was in a cafe questioning my leads when a young woman walked in to grab a to-go order under the name Chloe. Bleached hair peeked from under a cap, and despite her shades, I recognized her face. It was Sophie. I tailed her, keeping my distance, as she walked through Deansgate to a posh terraced house on King Street. She knocked, and an older man answered, greeting her with a kiss before ushering her inside. That had to be the boyfriend. Job done, I thought. I called the Holts, explaining I'd found Sophie and asking if they wanted me to approach her or just keep tabs. They asked for a day to decide, so I parked nearby, staking out the house overnight to ensure she didn't slip away. Next morning, I tried calling Roger and Evelyn again. No answer, just an automated message saying their number was unavailable. I tried again, same result. A bad feeling crept in. I'd seen cases where families got targeted to get to someone else. I drove to Salford, knocked on the Holt's door, but a stranger answered. A young woman, maybe a neighbour, who said she was house-sitting. Roger and Evelyn had left that morning for a holiday, planned months ago. I was floored. Why would they hire me, then vanish? The house-sitter couldn't help, saying their phones were probably off for the flight. My gut churned. Something was wrong. I drove back to King Street, walked to the house and rang the bell. The door was ajar, creaking open when I knocked. No answer to my calls. Dread took over. I searched the house, room by room, until I reached the upstairs bedroom. There, on the bed, were Sophie and her boyfriend. Blood everywhere. Both dead, clearly murdered. The scene was fresh, maybe hours old. I called the police, gave my statement, and watched as the investigation unfolded. Weeks later, the truth unraveled. Roger and Evelyn weren't Sophie's grandparents. They were imposters who'd strong-armed the real homeowner, paying her £8,000 to clear out and stick to their story. She spilled everything to the police, terrified. The fake Holts had used me to track Sophie, who someone wanted dead. Maybe her, maybe her boyfriend, a wealthy solicitor whose family hushed up his identity to avoid scandal. The murders were brutal, staged to look personal, but no forced entry or DNA left behind. Whoever did it was a ghost. The case went cold, buried under legal injunctions. Every PI has that one case that haunts them. Sophie's mine. I'll carry it forever.